Hello and welcome to Oversight. I am Charles Emuze. On today's episode of the program, we go to Akwa Ibom State to track the implementation of some public projects. But before we do that, this is what you should know.
Akwa Ibom is a state in the coastal southern part of the country, Nigeria. The state is located in the south-south geopolitical zone and is bordered on the east by Cross River State, on the west by Rivers and Abia State, and on the south by the Atlantic Ocean. The state was created in 1987 and is currently the highest oil and gas producing state in the country. Akwa Ibom State has 31 local government areas and 3 senatorial districts, namely Akwa Ibom Northeast, Akwa Ibom Northwest, and Akwa Ibom South. In 2021, Akwa Ibom State received a total sum of 1.79 billion naira from the zonal intervention funds known as constituency projects. Okorete is a coastal community and is the headquarters of Eastern Obolo local government area of Akwa Ibom State. It has a youth population of about 5,000 people. The predominant occupation in Okorete is fishing. Okorete is represented by Honorable Francis Uduyok in the House of Representatives and Senator Akon Eyakanyi. From 2016 till date, the total sum of 118 million has been allocated to the construction of a mini stadium for Okorete community. Our team visited the community to meet with its leaders, and this is what they told us.
To let them know, say, government is teaching us too much. This life and this stadium, as we dey waka go somewhere, we dey see something where we dey know better thing. We dey know better thing. I can. You go there for our time. We know see better thing again. Chief know they see the place where chief the bribe. And so and I say, since we give you this job, you don't this 5 years more than them not completed. Why? Why? Reason why. So I want to beg una say, tell the government to say una them they teach it also. And when they teach us no good though. Everybody there for this world though. Now God created every person. So as when I come to my glass, I may know say from today go everything will be all right. Everything will good. So make it now do something.
This project of this stadium have lasted for 5 years now. See our place, bushing, everywhere bushing. See, we don't know the reason why the federal government, the state government cannot see something better for us. And look at me, even look at me as a chief, up till now. By now, I could have been driving with car, but not even one empowerment to our children and our wives and our children. So if we don't do this, it seems that we are not a part of Nigeria. Are we not a part of Nigeria? Where people are enjoying, and then we are like this. Please, I would like the cameraman to video the whole of these places and see how bushy it is.
This project, I cannot remember vividly the year it started, but this project has been delayed for a quite time now, and we as youths, I'm also a footballer. We have plenty talent here, and we know the impact, the positive impact this project will do to the youth if it is completed. So we've been running around, we've been asking questions. Why has it been delayed? By December, we met with the House of Rep member handling the project, and we asked him why. This project comes up seasonal. They will come and do and go. So he told us the funding of the project is seasonal, zonal intervention funding. So we said he should explain how, what is the meaning of it. He said, as for like this year now, the funding for this year, this 2021, his own funding as a member for 2021 has gone into the internal roads we have in Okorete. That we now ask him what is the hope that this project will be completed. He said the funding, the next funding he is going to put in is going to be in 2022 budget. That is going to include it. That by 2022 he will have funding for the project and the project will be completed.
Behind me here is a project, which is a constituency project for the people of Okorete in Eastern Obolo. Is a construction of mini stadium, which first appeared in 2016. It did appear again in 2017 and finally in 2018. The figures which are attached to each year, in the year 2016, it was 43 million with a status of new attached to the line item. Also, that of 2017, it came out as for 65 million with also a status of new. Then in 2018, 10 million for the completion, which the status carries ongoing. But as it stands now, from there till now, this is what we have as a stadium, which estimately you have a total of 118 million, which should have served the community at large. But over time, with our engagement with the community concerning this, we've been able to do a series of town halls to see this come to life. And we've done letters also to the concerned ministries and the honorable involved. But till date, we've done like 2 letters. We did a letter in 2017 and in 2018. Until date, this is what we have as a stadium which should have been completed by now. Though the people of Okorete have been very, very cooperative, in the sense that they also are demanding and also crying for the completion of this project, because they know what they stand to benefit as a community if this is executed properly and with quality. Budget have been trying a lot over time to engage the representative, and up to date we still engage them to make sure that this comes to life.
The project for the construction of a mini stadium in Okorete community in Akwa Ibom State was nominated by Honorable Francis Udoyok, and the supervising agency was the Cross River Basin Development Authority. We made several attempts to contact the Honorable member for a comment on this project. He did not respond to any of our calls or messages. Now, before we go on to other projects in Akwa Ibom State, let us speak to a representative of budget to give us an overview of the analysis of the 2021 budget. This will be the first part of a series.
I think the country is not very healthy financially. The federal government's finances are almost in a crisis. And if you recall, recently the federal government had written to the National Assembly requesting for clearance to loan about 2.3 trillion naira to fund the capital budget, or to fund a portion of the capital budget. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, because before this year runs out, the government is going to also request for an additional about 2.3 or 2.4 trillion, because what it really needs to fund the capital budget is about 4.6 trillion, because that's how large the deficit is. I mean, the deficit is as large as 5.6 trillion, but it will be covered by maybe sales of some other government assets and from other sources. But the component of the deficit that is necessary or that for which the government will need loans is about 4.6 trillion. So that's how much we will be borrowing this year just to provide capital infrastructure for citizens. And we worry that this loan might be higher than this, because if you compare this period to what we experienced last year, in the first half of last year, debt servicing alone, which is money paid on interests in servicing past loans, basically wiped out about 95% of the government's revenue in the first half of the year. And if you think about it, for the entire year, Nigeria did not actualize all its entire revenue projections of about 5.3 trillion. I think what we had coming in was just 3.9. So that begs the question of the projections we have for 2021. Is there any faith that the government will attain the 7.9 trillion in revenue? Or is that just a projection on paper? Because if you look at all the fiscal situation of the country, it's worrisome, because if we do not meet that 7.9 trillion, the implication is that we would have to borrow more than we are currently projecting. So the 4.6 trillion will just be not be sufficient to fund the capital infrastructure project. So I would say we are not in a very good situation financially, so there is a very serious need to conserve the little resources we have and reduce wastages from the government and from the public expenditures in general. So I think that's what I'll say about our the state of our finances. And if you also look at what we would confront this year, even the 7.9 trillion we have as revenue, you'll find out that the projected cost for debt servicing in this year alone, which comes to about 3.3 trillion, would wipe out nearly half of that revenue, meaning that of the revenue that is coming in, we are already spending nearly half that amount just to service our past debts we have taken. And this is the country also now further plunging itself into more debts to fund infrastructure projects, meaning that in 2-3 years' time, you'll find out the cost for interest payments at the end of every year will be way higher than what we have at the moment. So there is a need for the country to rethink its fiscal strategy, and there's a need for the country to be more conservative and more prudent with its fiscal expenditures. So first and foremost, I would say it all boils down to the federal government budget. What really should worry Nigeria is that document, because largely every expenditure that the government makes is authorized in the Appropriation Act. Most people call it the federal government budget. And that's where you find that a lot of unscrupulous elements within either the civil service or within the public service in general make or ensure that certain items find their way into the budget that are wasteful of the public resources. And when this budget came out, when the budget was first proposed, Budget did an analysis of several frivolous items in the budget, and we flagged quite a number of them. There were items that were padded, there were items that were inflated, there were items that were, and I'll give a few examples. So there was the African First Lady Mission project, which was presented as a capital expenditure, and Budget raised the issue that that's not a capital expenditure. It's basically amounts that's spent on meetings for the office of the First Lady with other African First Ladies, and that's not a capital expenditure that the government should incur its costs. And to be fair, the National Assembly looked at that cost and they slashed it from 1 billion to 225 million. So that was some progress in response to several issues that were raised with the budget when it was proposed. And it's not only that, they cut out several other wasteful items. They cut out several other wasteful items in the budget. There were issues we raised with several organizations proposing to have meetings and calling these capital infrastructure projects. And we flagged those, and we found a situation where the National Assembly actually cut out a lot of those. But what we noticed was that while we can commend, or while Nigerians can be a bit relaxed, that from all the issues that were raised with the proposed budget, there were savings of at least 36 billion naira, which the National Assembly saw as wasteful projects or overinflated projects, and which they cut out of the proposed budget. So about 36 billion naira was saved as a result of a lot of advocacy by both Budget and several other CSOs to ensure that public revenues are properly spent. But as I mentioned, what we observed was that while several loopholes were closed, others were also opened. And I will give an example. There was a particular institute, I think the Institute of Marine and Oceanography, that had an allocation for about 2 billion naira to construct street lights, solar street lights, and that's not its mandate. It was given about 2 billion naira for that task. And we flagged it to the National Assembly, and to be fair, it was one of the things we celebrated, that yes, that 2 billion naira was yanked off that budget because they do not have the capacity to implement that particular project. It's not part of their core mandate. But what we noticed was that even though the code for that specific project was taken out of the project, a new code was introduced, and we had to check, and we found out that another 200 million naira was also allocated for the same project, but it was given a different budget code. It was given a different code. So if we hadn't double checked, we wouldn't have observed this change. But that's just to say that there were improvements in the budget from what was proposed. There were some leakages that were plugged, but there are still a whole lot of leakages that are begging to be plugged.
From Eastern Obolo local government area, we go to Oku Clan, a community in Uyo local government area of Akwa Ibom State. Oku Clan consists of 15 villages. It is represented by Honorable Okon Michael in the House of Representatives. Among other lacking amenities in the community, Oku Clan does not have a secondary school. The nearest one is several kilometers away, and this poses a threat to the children as they are prone to road accidents. In 2018, Honorable Okon Michael nominated the construction of a block of 3 classrooms at Community Secondary School Oku in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. This project was allocated 30 million naira. The agency responsible for this project is the Council of Nigerian Mining Engineers and Geosciences, under the purview of the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development. A visit to the site by our team revealed the following.
Some time ago, in 2019, the Client Council of Oku Client came and required us to give them a land that constituency projects of a school will be sited here in this Ikoroku. And we provided the land without any problem. All villages and other things, we counsel that we should just donate the land. We donated the land. In a short while, the foundation of this school was dig, and they pour the foundation stone and erect this building since 2019. And since then, I met the contractor here one time and asked him, what stopped this job? He said that it was because of rain, that as soon as the rain subsides, that he will come and take up the project. Since then, he has not shown himself here in this side again, and this project remains dumped like this. It has become a dumping ground for criminals and cultists to stay in this incompleted building and initiate themselves. So there's a lot of things happening here. All what we are asking, because I learned there was a time these tracking people came to this village and gave us a paper that this the project to be cited here, and I captured it in that very paper. I saw it, there was a big sum of money, somewhere 43 million naira was budgeted for this school. So we don't know why that kind of money cannot be used for the school, and the site still remains the way it is. So we are begging the government to look over it and do this, complete this project for us, because our children are suffering. From here to CCC, where the next secondary school is almost 10 kilometers or more than that. We are pleading with the government to step in and see whoever is involved, consent to build up this school for us.
I want government to come and complete this our secondary school. Since they do this secondary school, they don't complete it, and our children are suffering. We have a primary school, we don't have secondary school. Our children are dying every day to cross road and go to CCC or waste time. to go school. We are suffering. Our children are running about without school. Instead of to do school, see, they turn the school now to refugee, to skip crap. We want government to come and help our children so they can go education. We don't say we should stand up. We don't dakada. We want secondary school for this Ogu. Please, so government should come and help us. We are crying, we are begging. Our children are sitting at home without going to school.
The project has been abandoned since 2019, and the children in the community have to cover several kilometers to get secondary education. This put their lives at risk of road accidents. How long should it take to construct a block of 3 classrooms? In 2020, another 13 million naira was allocated to complete the classroom project. Our sources tell us that zonal intervention projects for 2020 were fully funded by the executive. This makes a total of 43 million naira allocated to this project.
About 2 years back, we had in mind that we should build a community secondary school. So at the long run, our senator came. We gave him the report that he should assist us, because to build a classroom block, we know what it means and what it takes. So he was agreed with us to support us. Then, after he left Tobuya, he sent a man, either some men to the clan. They said that they are contractors to build the site, that I should show them the site to erect the building. I took them to the site. As I took them to the site, I showed them. They carried the payloader and destroyed the club and other things, because all what we were expecting from him is to build the school. When we saw them coming, we were very, very excited that we shall be relieved. At least we have a place that our children should attend school. Because most of our children, some went to Itam, some are Fort, and some area that far distance. So, in fact, to measure our happiness towards it, we did not ask them for either call it this compensation or anything for that club, or this marching ground that they used to give to other village. I told my boys not to do as, because I don't want them to run, because they may have excuse towards that the youth did not allow them to carry out their job. That was why we said that no youth should go. But I pleaded with them that they should employ them at least for work. Well, later they came and did the foundation. We pleaded with him to come and complete the job, because the announce was made that last September that they will resume that school. Up till today, nothing is done.
James Akpan serves as the project tracking officer for Akwa Ibom State. Listen to what he told us about the abandoned school project.
This project was nominated in 2018 and also 2020 in Oku community of Uyo local government, a construction of a secondary school for the community. In 2018, a sum of 30 million was nominated for the project and carrying a status of new. While in 2020, a sum of 13 million was nominated for the same project with a status of new, not ongoing. But the situation we can find on ground is that when we visited the location to see the present status of the project, is nothing to write home about. Though the organization, which is Tracker, have been on that project for over years now, since 2018, while the project started somewhere around 2019, is nothing to write home about. Though with our constant visitation and engagement with the project's, the site manager, by the name Engineer Benson, as that when we visited, that's the only name we have on records, he stated that the main challenge of the project wasn't finances, but the frequent rainfall in Akwa Ibom State. That after the rainfall, which is a challenge to him, was that after the rainfall, the project will pick up. But after the rainfall, after the rain subsided, before the pandemic, before the lockdown and all that, which he promised after that something will be done on site, yet nothing. And what we find on the site is nothing to write home about, which if you sum up the 30 million for 2018 and the 13 million for 2020, which 100% have been released for 2020 provision, it sums up to 43 million. But yet go to the site, nothing to write home about.
This is the much we can take on today's episode of the program. We continue to ask you to play your part, get involved and ask questions. Till I come your way again, I am Charles Imuze. Thank you for watching.